Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today we have a really marvelous one. It's Shostakovich Cello Concertos, numbers 1 and 2, and the greatest recording ever. No, it's not the greatest recording ever. It's the greatest recordings ever. Because you see, there are many greatest recordings ever, sometimes of the same work. And, you know, one of the things that I've seen in the comments is some of you people suggest that because I call this one of the greatest recordings ever, it's the greatest recording ever of the work in question. Well, that's not the point. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's simply one of the greatest recordings of anything. The work, other things, whatever it is. And there may well be many, because in the standard repertoire, you have the best people doing zillions of recordings, and at least a couple or 3 or 4 or 5 or 20 may wind up being in the pile of greatest recordings ever because they're so wonderful. I mean, if everybody did amazing Beethoven's Fifth, then there would be 400 greatest recordings ever, all of Beethoven's Fifth. You see, it's the greatness of the recording, not so much the greatest recordings of this particular work. Those I discuss in the repertoire videos, to which I refer you, if you want to look at it that way. So let's just to be absolutely 100% clear, because clarity is everything, isn't it, folks? Really. So anyway, Shostakovich Cello Concertos 1 and 2, the greatest recording ever. One of them is going to be Heinrich Schiff with Maxim Shostakovich. It's contained in this handy-dandy little triple 3 CD box here, which also has the 2 piano concertos and the 2 violin concertos, the first of which with Victoria Mullova might as well be one of the greatest recordings ever as well, because it's amazing. But the cello concertos originally came out on a separate disc, obviously. They feature cellist Heinrich Schiff and the Bavarian Radio Symphony Orchestra under the composer's son, Maxim Shostakovich. Now, Maxim Shostakovich was not always the greatest Shostakovich conductor. He was a very good one, of course. He understood the music naturally. But, having understood it is one thing. Conveying that to an orchestra and having a great orchestra is another thing. He did some excruciatingly dull recordings of his dad's symphonies on Collins Classics, I think it was. And he did some wonderful ones on Melodia, 5 and 15, for example, the premiere of 15, I believe. And he did, was it Contrast who did the premiere of 15? I don't know, but it was about that time. And then he did a generally very good symphony cycle in Prague that was on Supraphon. It had its moments and some strange textural issues in some of the symphonies, which is kind of curious. But in this particular case, everything came together just humongously wonderfully, because Heinrich Schiff is just a glorious cellist, or was a glorious cellist, an amazing cellist and conductor, just an amazing musician all round. He really was. And his cello playing on these recordings is just astounding. And you get both of them on one disc, which is why it's one of the greatest recordings ever. Remember, recordings can mean the entire recorded production of more than one work. And in this case, they're both marvelous. And I have to say, the big surprise here was the second cello concerto. The first cello concerto, everyone knows, is probably the greatest work for the instrument since the Dvorak. It's just incredibly intense emotionally, and prowly and creepy and neurotic. I mean, the first movement has to be the most high-strung, nervous breakdown kind of piece anybody ever wrote. And this performance is just right up there. I mean, with Rostropovich and all those people, I mean, it just has such a high level of neurotic tension. I mean, when the cello's going, was that irritating? Well, you have no idea what's coming. And underneath it, you've got the woodwinds going, do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do, and the contrabassoon going, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's unbelievable, the clarity. And as a result of that clarity, I can't even describe it. It will give you nightmares, which is the idea. But the second cello concerto, is equally fine, and it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful piece that so few people know. It begins with a big, long adagio. big, long, slow movement that rises to a huge climax punctuated by shots on the bass drum. Then there's a scherzo. And the scherzo is based on a folk tune from Odessa, I believe. Buy your bagels. Bubliki, kupicia bubliki, kupicia bubliki. It's buy bagels or bialys or something like that. And it's really a very neurotic and intense movement that rises to a huge climax with a percussion accompanied solo cadenza for the cello, and then a theme and variations, which is remarkable because the theme has several parts, all of which are going to be varied, and it has a cadence da 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 ya da 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 da, and the harp going like a lullaby. It's really it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful, and it eventually works its way up to a hysterical return of the Buy Your Bagels tune, and ends softly with percussion tick-tocking away, like at the end of the scherzo of the Fourth Symphony or the very end of the 15th Symphony. That like that. It's a wonderful work. It ends quietly. It's more enigmatic than the first. It's not as emotionally direct. So it's never going to be as popular, but it's played to a fare thee well in this absolutely stupendous performance. So you have not just marvelous performance of both concertos, but marvelous performances that really introduced us or raised the level of the second concerto, I think, to that of the first. And for that reason, this is one of the greatest recordings ever. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me, and take care.